that, I'm now have the pleasure to welcome along someone I haven't seen for some considerable time and I've had the pleasure to work with before. I'd welcome Gail Faulkner. Gail has been a social worker for over 30 years. She was part of the leadership team which worked in Leeds to become an outstanding children's services by being committed to relational or restorative practice. Gail now works as part of Leeds' Family Valued programme to work alongside local authorities to develop restorative approaches. Hi, Gail. It's lovely to see you.
Hi, Angela. It's lovely to see you, even if it's through a computer.
We'll get that cup of tea together again soon.
We will.
So, what are your reflections on what you've heard so far?
Oh, well, it's so moving, and so it makes me feel so humble, and so for people to share their stories, their lives. And as a social worker, it is just, sometimes I feel a bit defensive, but I'm not going to be defensive because, I want to say there's loads of good social workers, etc. But I know, people like Hussein have so generously acknowledged that. But, absolutely so moving. And if ever I needed, like anybody ever needs, a reminder to, work, this is about partnership. And, you only get to keep children in their families if you work with the family and tenacious in that work. I have a lovely colleague who has a phrase of kitchen sink approach. I don't think it's an academic study, but it's, you throw everything and the kitchen sink to help people to keep families together. That's what partnership is for me. And, some of the accounts that we've heard tonight have shown that wasn't as good as it could be. We keep needing to strive for that.
So, what have your experiences of partnership been, and have you seen this changing across the years as you've worked?
Well, I mean, because I've been around so long, I can remember people will be like, wow, can't believe that. But I can remember the Children Act coming in and people being really excited about the partnership that talked about and required. And for a few years, that was absolutely front and centre of people trying to develop that and not go to court. And the idea of the lesser order, that was a really driving move. But somehow some of it got a little bit lost. There were some really good things, I worked in Sure Start for years, and that was absolutely wonderful in partnership with parents and families devising services and everything. It was just great. But it has got a bit lost, although, as you know, in Leeds, since, for a decade, we have been, we've had some superb leaders who have tried to establish a culture of true partnership, giving up a bit of power, trying to always do the little things, treat each other with respect so that social workers then treat others with respect from little things. But also going, working with yourselves and going big on family group conference. And that's an absolute entitlement now in Leeds. Lifelong links and supporting kinship carers. And we've been very successful in that. And now we're able to work across the country with authorities that are saying, help us in this stuff sometimes. So it's not all bad, although, I know.
What do you think the barriers are to working in partnership? Because you've got it, you've come at it from the right angle in Leeds and getting out there and sort of spreading the word. What are you finding the barriers are?
Well, I think it's interesting listening to your panel members. They said things about prejudice and you need trust and preconceptions. And they were the things, and they are barriers if they exist. But I suppose I were thinking about it from a social worker, and I were thinking we have become a profession that where there's a lot of focus on risk. There's been a lot said about there's the national context where sometimes it's said you get phrases like disguise compliance, as if all parents are trying to, sort of pull the wool over your eyes or whatever. And I think those things are quite dominant. There can be in the profession. There's also a lot of forms and a lot of processes. I'm not saying we don't need forms and processes. People who I've managed, if they were listening, they'd be like, oh yeah, she wants her form, but maybe too much. And that's something we need to do. Focus on the practice, focus on the people. Everything else will follow, everything else. So, people have talked tonight about caseloads. Again, Hussein, I'm looking at that, but what we all know is, what is a caseload? It's children and families you're working with. And if you work in partnership, it's much more effective. Fancy that. Work in partnership, it's effective. Children are safe. They can stay where they're loved. That's the most important thing. Staying where they are loved and looked after. Your caseload will reduce. That's what happened in Leeds. Partnership is effective. I've gone off the barriers question. I'm sorry.
No, actually, I had been going to come to ask you one final question, which would be, what would you like the professionals listening to take away from tonight or put into action from this evening? And I think you've touched on that, but is there one thing you really want people to think about listening to this?
There's not one thing, there's loads. But what I would say, if there's one thing to leave, is people might look up and around their organisation and think, I can't do this. We're not doing this well. And what I would say, start where you are. Be the change that you want to see. Start in your little way. Take your lanyard off when you go down a path. Knock on the door. And I know people do that. I know, but those small things, to be respectful, build trust, and the humanity that's in our profession and in partnership.
Thank you. The point about the lanyard, taking the lanyard off, you taught me that years ago, and it's stuck with me, because it's not partnership okay. Is about it's about respect and leveling that playing field. And I could sit and talk to you all night. It's been absolutely wonderful to see you again, and I hope that we do get to see one another in person really soon.
So do I.
Thank you
Lovely talking
very much,
to you, Angela.
Gail.
Thanks.